Hello and welcome to a new series of Hardtalk India interviews. If the United Progressive Alliance government in India has made strides, then undoubtedly it's in the field of foreign policy. In the last 1 year, 3 extensive relationships have been completely transformed, with the United States of America, with China and with Pakistan. And although India still faces serious problems with its neighbours closer at home, there are of course real signs that Indian foreign policy has come to terms with the realities of the 21st century. Here to talk about the challenges he faces is India's Foreign Minister, Natwar Singh. Foreign Minister, let's start a little differently. You often speak of yourself as a great believer in non-alignment. Today, more than 10 years after the Cold War ended, just how relevant is non-alignment?
Well, I'll ask you a counter question. How is NATO relevant? The Warsaw Pact is wound up, Soviet Union has disappeared, communists have gone from Eastern Europe and the Cold War is over and NATO is expanding. Why
NATO fulfills a need the Europeans feel for. What need does non-alignment fulfill for you?
Non-alignment fulfills needs because it is gives you, it's not a dogma, it's not a doctrine, it's independent thinking which creates an atmosphere for reconciliation, for data, for peaceful coexistence, and to judge each issue on its merits. So the non-aligned movement needs diplomatic blood transfusion. Non-alignment doesn't.
So non-alignment is a platform for independent thinking and for each country to project its national interests open-mindedly.
That's right.
All right. In opposition, you were often publicly skeptical of America. In fact, you once wrote that India as a non-aligned country couldn't be the natural ally of a major NATO power. Today, after almost 1 year in office, how has your attitude to America changed?
Well, let me take off on what Rumsfeld said the other day. That was the old Natwar. This is a new Natwar. Now, I am not in opposition. I am the Foreign Minister of India. And it is my principal duty to ensure that India's vital national interests are never compromised. And for that, it is essential for us to have the closest relations with the United States, with China, with Russia, with Japan, with so many other, France, UK.
So what you're saying is, don't judge me by the rhetoric of an opposition politician, judge me by what I do today in office as Foreign Minister.
No, that, yes, of course, but I mean, I have a fair amount of experience in this business, so I know what the responsibilities are when you are the Foreign Minister of India.
Absolutely. Let me push you a little. There is a view in India, which once upon a time you used to share, that between India and Pakistan, America always ends up leading on the side of Pakistan. Is that the case today, or has that changed?
No, our composite dialogue with Pakistan is progressing very satisfactorily. And I must say that the atmosphere between the two countries, I have been ambassador to Pakistan 25 years ago. I have never seen a better atmosphere on both sides of the Indo-Pak border.
But what about the Indian view that you shared once upon a time, that America always leans on the side of Pakistan? Is that perception now outdated?
No, I am not going to comment on what America does with Pakistan. I am concerned how do we deal with our relationship with Pakistan. How do we take this composite dialogue forward?
Okay. I'll come to the composite dialogue in a fairly big way later on. Let me first put this to you. Do you today believe that America is putting as much effort into curbing and restraining cross-border activity against India from Pakistan as earlier America put into changing Pakistan's foreign policy towards the Taliban in Afghanistan?
Well, I think they are trying. They are trying, but we have always said that this Indo-Pak thing has to be bilateral. Now, if our friends want to be helpful in any way, they are welcome to do so. Our stand has been that the commitment made by President Musharraf on the 6th of January 2004, that he will not allow the territory of Pakistan to be used for terrorism, he has to fully deliver on it.
And in that process, what you're looking for from America is even-handedness.
No, we are saying that you take the question in an objective reality. Now, here is a democracy of 1 billion people, which is function democracy, which is trying to have good relations with Pakistan, with the United States, with China, all our neighbors. And in this process, now, for example, take the F-16s. Now, this happened, the 3 billion to Pakistan was given in 2003 when the NDA was in office. I don't want to go in the blame game. If that had not happened, F-16 wouldn't have happened.
But let me bring up...
We have told the Americans that we are very disappointed in your giving this. But our relationship has reached a level of maturity where we can live with our differences without our fundamental, friendly, good relations being affected adversely.
Well, let me pick up on that. You mentioned the F-16s. When news first broke that the Americans were prepared to sell F-16s to Pakistan, the Indian Prime Minister himself expressed his great disappointment. Since then, it's become clear that much the same, if not more, is on offer to India, not just F-16s, but also F-18s. And there's also talk of nuclear cooperation and strategic cooperation. So now, in your considered view, is this a setback, or is it in fact taking the relationship to a different dimension altogether?
Oh yes, it is. Our relationship with the United States is going on a different dimension. The relations have never been better. Right across, we are having exchanges with them in every area, including peaceful use of nuclear energy.
And this is why you can take in your stride the giving of F-16s to Pakistan. You may be disappointed, but you can take it in your stride.
That's what I said, that we have reached the level of maturity when we can take the... I personally conveyed my disappointment to Condoleezza Rice on the telephone when I spoke to her. She spoke to me. I was in Myanmar. So did the Prime Minister. I'm going to Washington early next week to have talks with the Secretary of State and other officials of the Bush administration. All these aspects will be discussed. No aspect will be left out.
Now, one of the things that was said and reported widely in Indian newspapers, quoting senior State Department officials, is that America has also made an offer to help make India a world player, a world power in the 21st century, including in the military sense. How do you respond to that?
Well, I would have phrased it in a different way. We are not in the game of becoming a world power. Our job is to eradicate poverty.
But what I'm talking about is, how do you respond to the American offer to give that help? Is that a sign that the relationship has now moved considerably further than was imagined, envisaged a year ago?
The military aspect is only one aspect of 24 areas in which we are cooperating, and cooperating very well. But our defense ministry and our defense establishment will take a very good look at it, as the defense minister said the other day. And then we'll respond to this particular matter of F-16, F-18s. But there is a possibility that we can have joint production on some areas.
Quite right. But you're sticking to the F-16s, and I'm talking about the sentiment from Washington that they want to help India become a world power. How do you respond to that sentiment?
No, I again said so, that this particular was not happily phrased in my judgment, because we are not in the game of being world power. Now, we have first of all to get rid of poverty, illiteracy, disease, hunger.
So you're saying America is misreading India when it extends its hand in this manner?
No, I'm not going to pass a value judgment. In their wisdom, they've used the language. They're welcome to it. We welcome the improvement in our relations and raising our relation to a much higher level. And this is a sign of confidence in both
I'm surprised that you're not more happy at this sentiment, because Indian newspapers have seen it as a sign that the relationship between Delhi and Washington has now changed diametrically. You have your reservations about the
I don't
phrasing.
have reservations at all. I am just about this particular phrase that the United States will help India to become a world power. We should help ourselves with the aid of our friends and the goodwill of our friends.
We can do it ourselves. We don't need help to get there.
No, I don't say that. We need, all countries need help. There's the whole question of globalization, interdependence.
Where does Washington stand on India's bid to join the United Nations Security Council as a permanent member? It's known that they have endorsed the Japanese and the Germans. What have they said to you?
I don't think they have endorsed the Germans, as far as I know. We have discussions with them. They have not fully made up their mind. I intend taking this up when I go to Washington next week. We have had very wide support from the...
When you say they haven't fully made up their mind, does that mean they haven't closed their mind either?
I hope so, that they haven't closed their mind. And I'll certainly ask this particular question as to where do you stand on the reform of the United Nations and India's place as a permanent member with a veto.
And you remain hopeful that you could have their support?
Well, let me say one thing, that diplomacy offers hope, not salvation.
Now, earlier, the Indian government had said that Security Council permanent membership without a veto would be meaningless. But 3 months later, are you more amenable to that idea?
No, I think the position has been made quite clear with by the Prime Minister that India will not accept any discrimination between the original P5 veto powers and the future P5 permanent members.
So in reports in the papers that you had changed your position about the veto are inaccurate and incorrect.
Yes, it is. It is clearly stated by the Prime Minister that no discrimination between the original P5 and the new P5 or P6.
So India is looking for permanent membership of the Security Council with veto powers.
That's right.
And nothing less would be acceptable.
We are looking for permanent membership with veto power.
All right. Now, on Thursday, a couple of days before this interview is broadcast, the first bus is going to roll out from Srinagar to Muzaffarabad and vice versa. There's a lot of hype and excitement about it. Do you see this as an achievement of significance or simply a sign that the atmosphere between the two countries is changing?
I think it's a very significant development. This bus is now going to Muzaffarabad after 57 years. Families have been divided for 57 years.
So this is substance.
So it's very substantial, and I want to say that our friends in Pakistan, without their cooperation, this wouldn't have happened. Similarly with the rail link, we are going to open the rail link 2nd of October between Sindh and Rajasthan, closed since 1965. We are going to have bus to Nankana side.
Quite right. The people are coming together. Families that are divided are getting a chance to meet again. Yet it's said that the real test of the peace process between India and Pakistan will be how you tackle the tricky question of Kashmir. In September in New York, the two heads of government agreed to explore options for a solution. When will that actual exploration start?
Well, this is a continuous process. And I have repeatedly told our friends in Pakistan, there is no quick fix. These are complex problems going back decades. It will take some time. It's not a...
Quite right. The end is a long way away.
Yeah.
But has the beginning happened? Have you begun talking about options for solutions?
Yeah, the Prime Minister said all options are open except redrawing the map of India or a second partition.
Quite right. That was a statement India made. But have talks between both sides, formal talks about these options started?
Yes, we are talking about all issues including Jammu and Kashmir. Now this is a step. This bus service, when two people come and mix to each other, see what's happening, get closer to each other, this is a very substantial step forward.
Let me put it like this. Does India have its own options for solution that it wants to put on the table and discuss?
No, we are open to all suggestions. As the Prime Minister said, let them put, we'll discuss with them.
But it sounds as if you're saying let them put the suggestions, we'll discuss it. You don't have any of your own that you want to put on the table?
No, are quite clear. We are open to all the options that they offer, except redrawing the map of India and having a second partition.
So when General Musharraf comes to India, as he's expected for cricket on the 16th and 17th of this month, and if he takes up the subject of Kashmir, will you simply listen to what he has to say, or do you have things of your own that you want to say to him?
Will depend on what he has to offer. Now, if you say that A, B, C, D, we will say, all right, sir, well, let's have a look at it. We'll sit down.
But do you have an E, F, G, H of your own?
No, we don't have to have it. It's them who are raising this question for the last 50 years.
So the ball is in their court.
Exactly.
The ball's in their court.
Absolutely.
The Pakistanis, however, tend to feel that India wants to push the relationship in terms of confidence-building measures in areas like cricket, trade and cultural contacts. But when it comes to Kashmir, India drags its feet.
No, you see, this is they are now, at one stage they didn't want to talk about anything except Kashmir. Now they are no longer unifocal. They say, we'll discuss with you other matters. I tell them that, listen, our trade with China is $13.6 billion in 2004, Pakistan $400 million.
But you're diverting the discussion. The Pakistanis say that the Indians want to talk about anything but Kashmir.
No,
and when you say to me that the ball's in their court, we listen to whatever they have to say, but we don't have any options of our own to put on the table, in a sense, to the audience, that might sound as if the Pakistanis have a point.
No, they don't. I'll tell you. They say, for example, the wishes of the Kashmiri people. What do you mean by it? We have had elections in Kashmir. There is an elected government. There is an elected member of parliament. There are elected members of the assembly. Now, similar exercise has not taken on that place. So, wishes of the people of Kashmir means what?
Do you get the feeling that the problem is that you're both willing to talk, but you're both talking at each other rather than to? You have different agendas, different motives, different ends that you want to get to, and you're not meeting in the middle.
No, we are meeting all the time. The objective is...
Physically, but not in conversation.
No, in conversation. The objective is to take Indo-Pak relations to a level where the future of Indo-Pak relations is not in the past. Look ahead to the 21st century and get on with it.
And are you getting to that level?
Yes, we are hoping. We are trying very hard.
Is steady progress happening?
Yes, it is.
Let me put something to you. You said a moment ago that the Indian Prime Minister has said that he doesn't want redrawing of boundaries. In fact, his full phrase was he wants to make boundaries and borders irrelevant. What does that mean?
It means that you produce goodwill, you produce friendship, you produce amity.
Does it also mean soft borders? Does it also mean, without damaging sovereignty on either side, giving a real say to the other in the affairs of your own?
No, given the history of this particular issue, one has to tread very cautiously, with great patience, with great restraint, with great wisdom, and with great hope.
And that's what you plan to do?
Yes.
But you are going to be imaginative and creative to the extent possible.
Yes, we are. That's why the composite dialogue is going ahead the way it is.
Now, another landmark visit, taking place in fact on Saturday, is the arrival of the Chinese Prime Minister. He's already said that this is the most important item in his calendar for 2005. Where does it stand in yours?
Exactly the same.
This is the single most important thing.
It depends, A, whether the Prime Minister goes to the United States or not. B, whether Mr. Bush comes here or not. So it will be one of the very major items for us. For him to have said that for him it is, I think it's a very, very significant statement.
The Indian
and we welcome it.
You welcome it?
Oh, absolutely welcome it.
The Indian newspapers are speculating that the two countries are poised to sign an agreement on principles to help you sort out your 5-decade-old border dispute.
Yes, we have had 4 meetings of the special representatives. The 5th will take place on the 10th or 11th when our NSA's counterpart comes
Quite right. And are you at a point where you can agree on principles on how to sort out the dispute?
Yes, we are going to discuss this particular matter, and if an agreement is reached, it could be reached during this visit. That's our objective.
So if an agreement is reached, it could be reached during the Chinese Prime Minister's visit?
It could be. Well, what are the parameters and what are the criteria for the demarcation of this? And if you reach this stage, it's a very, very good development.
The papers say that the two principles on which both sides are narrowing is firstly concern and for each other's security, and secondly non-disturbance of existing populations. Can you confirm that those are the principles you're identifying?
No, our relations have now reached a strategic high ground, as the Chinese Prime Minister said the other day, and we are going to look at this, at how to resolve this. Fortunately, since 1988, since Rajiv Gandhi went there, the border has been tranquil, peaceful, no friction, and in that spirit, both countries, large countries, both countries doing well, we should be able to address ourselves to this and solve this amicably.
And if you do end the visit with an agreement on principles to sort out the border, that will be a landmark achievement.
No, it will be one of there are many other issues that are going to come in this discussion.
But this is an important achievement?
This is an important, it will be an important subject.
All right. Now, China also happens to be one of the big 5 in the United Nations. Do you have their support for India's membership of the Security Council?
Well, in his state, the interview that the Chinese Prime Minister gave to the PTI, they said that the United Nations needs reform, Security Council needs reform, developing countries need to be in
Quite
the
right.
member.
They said 2 important things. One, that the United Nations need reform, and 2, that there should be greater room for India in the international sphere. But that
in the Security Council.
Well, I don't think he used the words
no,
in
I
the
think
Security
I got it
Council.
here.
No, he didn't.
Yeah.
That's how you're interpreting him.
No, I don't interpret because we've been in touch with them. India is a major developing country that plays a positive role in regional affairs. I fully understand India's position. I am ready to see a greater role of India in the international arena and the United Nations included.
But a greater role in the United Nations doesn't mean a yes to Security Council membership.
But what is the reform about?
That's your interpretation.
The whole world.
That's your interpretation.
To reform the Security Council, make it more democratic, make it more representative. 1945 is no longer relevant in 2005.
Foreign Minister, you have every right to interpret the Chinese Foreign Minister as you want. I'm simply pointing out that it's not quite as clear-cut a case as you're saying. Let's move to the situation with India's neighbouring countries. You've taken a very strong line against King Gyanendra's assumption of direct power in Kathmandu. The Americans, the British and the European Union have supported you. But have you got the response from Kathmandu you were hoping for?
No, we haven't got. But it is encouraging to see that Mr. Koirala has been released, Mr. Durba has been released. I hope Mr. Nepal will also be released. He is a foreign Prime Minister, I think, or a foreign minister. Now, our relations with Nepal are unique. They're extremely close. We don't visas to go there, they don't visas to come here.
But you said a very important thing a moment ago. You haven't got the response you were hoping for.
No, we haven't. Because we would like him to unwind
In
the
fact,
emergency should be ended. Political parties should be asked to get
but
together.
far from unwinding, the impression he gives is that he's not really listening to you. He's refusing to meet your ambassador since the gentleman returned, and he's making trouble, to use a colloquialism, for Indian companies in that country.
No, again, it's a very distressing situation. Being a very large country, we have to be excessively sensitive to the feelings of the Nepalese and the Nepalese establishment. What Nepal needs today is both a constitutional monarchy and democracy so that he can deal with the Maoists.
But in the way you've handled this situation, let me put to you a point your critics often make. Have you overplayed your hand? Have you boxed both yourself and the king into a corner and made each other defensive rather than responsive?
On the contrary, this is not the first time this situation has arisen in the last 50 years. We have lived with it again and again. It happened in 1989, I had to go and meet his brother.
So it's a game of bluff that you're playing, and you're waiting to see who winks first.
No, it's not a game of bluff. It's a game of diplomatic patience and to use maximum restraint. We have all the leverage. We are not going to use any leverage. We are hoping His Majesty will be able to see what the reality is.
And if he doesn't, then what?
We'll wait and watch.
How long? How long will you wait and watch?
You know, we have a great capacity for waiting.
You mean you have infinite patience?
Yes, we have, as far as our Nepal is concerned.
But if you're going to be infinitely patient, then why did you bother to act adversely in the first place? Why weren't you more understanding of his problems?
How do you know we were not? We have conveyed everything to His Majesty the King, and the fact that he has not been an ambassador is unfortunate. But that doesn't mean that we are going to turn our face. We are deeply interested in the welfare of the Nepalese people. We are deeply interested in containing the Maoist insurgency, and for that His Majesty needs functioning of Parliament, having elections and undoing the emergency.
Let me sum up this interview where we've covered a gamut of subjects by putting this to you. Just under a year ago, when you first became Foreign Minister, you were accused of being out of touch with reality, of speaking out of turn, of putting your foot in your mouth. Are you more comfortable in the job today?
No, I don't agree with what those people said. People who know me would never have said it. I have a fair amount of experience in this.
But do you think you're the one left smiling rather than your critics?
No, listen, if I were to bother about my critics, then, you know, I couldn't function as a... My principal objective is to safeguard the vital nationalism of India. And every time and every day.
And there, Foreign Minister, we have to end it. Thank you very much for speaking to Hard Talk India.